Those beans smell delicious.
They smell like an onion.
If you, dear listener, hear any of the poofing that you associate with pressure cooker, that is because the beans are being cooked in a pressure cooker. So there may be poofing. Is that what it's called?
No, I don't think so.
Oh. Oh, wait. Do you know that we're currently in a beans news cycle?
No, tell me about the
it's
beans
incredible.
news.
So I guess like the CEO of Goya is on the Trump train.
Oh, I did know about that.
And whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why Trump was appearing with the CEO of Goya. It seems like a Mr. Pillow type situation all over again. But the CEO of Goya was, praising him in the way that anyone around him has to praise him.
Hold on. Is Mr. Pillow like Tim Apple?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Johnny Pillow.
I don't know what the name of that man is. Only the exact contours of his mustache. Okay, so of course, everything has to be a culture war for at least a day, and we're currently in the beans culture war where libs want to not buy Goya, and notably Ted Cruz came out with the following statement that his grandparents ate Goya black beans twice a day for nearly 90 years, and now the left is trying to cancel Hispanic culture and silence free speech.
Well, one of my college boyfriends called black beans white people beans. So
that's fair. But then it turned out it was not uncovered because it is publicly available information. But I guess Goya, first of all, was founded in 1936 in New York. Didn't even sell black beans until the 50s. And it was a small local New York company until the late 70s, and certainly never exported any beans to Cuba before the U.S. embargo. So
shocking. He told multiple lies. How could he?
But hey, cancel culture. It's gotten its grubby little paws on beans.
Well, on one brand that sells beans, among other things, I guess.
Well, our beans that smell delicious are Rancho Gordo beans, friends of the pod.
Are they friends with us on Instagram or something?
They're no.
Oh, okay.
They don't
Do we
exist.
follow them?
No, I guess we should.
Because technically,
I think we only have I haven't checked the Instagram in a while.
Technically, their beans are all plantable. That's one of the things they advertise is you could plant these and they would grow into more beans if you want.
Wow. I'm delighted to buzz market Rancho Gordo because they are delicious and, despite being fancy, still cheap because they are, of course, beans.
Yeah, they're still reasonably affordable. They're expensive for beans,
right.
But in absolute cost,
the kind of things that they would be mocked for how expensive they are by people who would love to spend $100 on strip steak or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, beans, it can be so good per meal. It's really worth it to just get good ones in the first place.
Yeah. Be like Ted Cruz's grandparents. Eat beans every day of your life.
But
they're good for your heart.
Bad ones. I mean, I guess eat bad ones if that's what you have.
The more you eat.
Wait, what are we doing here?
The more you fart.
It's CD business. It's CD business.
All right, so today is Saturday afternoon. This day, boy, it really has punched me in the face as the first true Florida. I thought it was hot and humid, but boy, there was I would say 20 minutes of a downpour here today where it was blindingly sunny the whole time. I told Allison this earlier, but sometimes you'll get a few seconds of it raining while it's still sunny and you're like, wow, isn't that a novelty? Here it's in the 90s. The sun was blistering and it was just pouring rain for a lengthy period of time.
That seems like how it is all the time to me, but
Very well may be.
I guess the sun was out more than it sometimes or often is when it's raining.
I assume that is bad for plants, because isn't there the kind of thing where you don't want to water your garden during the day because the sun refracting off the water?
Yeah, so the beads of water on the plant leaves can act like a lens and concentrate the sunlight onto the leaves and then burn them.
I mean, that's amazing. And that was God doing that today. The Lord our God. Allison, what is in the garden?
Then let us cultivate our garden. It's the only way to make life endurable.
Well, so we just had our first real crop of good tomatoes.
Yeah.
Tomatoes that tasted good, and we got enough of them that they made a significant component of our meal. And we live in Florida, so there's really no excuse for us for that happening in July other than my own laziness and the fact that I don't start any seeds indoors because Lucy makes that basically impossible.
Our cat loves to eat plants, as cats, I guess, do, but I feel like she shows no food interest in anything but plants.
Yeah, pretty much.
In fact, we have to give her these eye drops now, and we're making the experience more palatable to her by feeding her arugula leaves afterwards.
Yeah, that's her treat. If she accepts an eye drop, she gets a leaf of arugula.
But yeah, the tomatoes, they were the same. It's the same plant that I criticized for making mediocre tomatoes in the previous episode. But it turns out the ones that sat on the vine for longer got real sweet and good.
Yeah, I guess they just needed a little more time.
Yeah. We have another tomato plant.
We do. And those tomatoes are ripening rapidly, I think. I should check on them in the next day or two. They might be ready.
They're much bigger.
They are like a small plum tomato. And I can't remember if they're supposed to be green or yellow.
I guess we'll figure it out when we bite into them.
Yeah, that's true.
Do we have anything else going on?
Well, I mean, the arugula, which mostly right now Lucy is enjoying.
Yeah. The arugula seemed like it started over after being flooded out. Like it's had a...
Yeah, it bounced back a little bit.
Yeah. But it's not tall right now. It seems young again to me.
I really should have started watermelons over again. I was very excited about growing those watermelons this year, but I was just so discouraged. And I don't know. I guess we're in Florida, so maybe July is not too late for watermelons.
Oh, maybe.
It's hard to say.
Oh, did you see, speaking of watermelons, the absolutely revolting smoking and barbecuing of a whole watermelon that has been on social media over the last couple days?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's like I don't know where the restaurant is, but it's folks who generally smoke meats are preparing, they're skinning the watermelon, but otherwise it is whole. And they are preparing it by brining it and then smoking in exactly the same way they do with their meat. And the end result, they're calling watermelon ham. And
that's funny.
It is funny. They slice it like it's meat. It really looks like the most awful meat.
Well, maybe people like it. Is it good?
I mean,
have you heard people?
Yeah, apparently people like it a lot.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, it looks revolting is all. Anyway, if we replant watermelons, we can give it a go.
We'd have to build a smoker, I guess.
Can we just set a fire in our trash can and put it in there or something?
Don't think that's right.
I don't know what smoking entails. Any other garden? I haven't been in the backyard in weeks.
Everything's pretty stunted back there. I mean, there's a lot of basil. There's actually tons and tons of basil.
Yeah, we've had as much of that as we've wanted whenever we've wanted it.
I might do another round of planting basil because if we ever get that freezer delivered and we ever go to a grocery store ever again, I would love to get I would love to get ingredients to make pesto and then make and freeze a ton of homemade pesto. That sounds
that would be
really
amazing.
appealing.
Our freezer has been delayed. We mentioned it last time. It should have been coming 2 days from now, but instead 2 more weeks.
I suspect that's a lie. I suspect in 2 weeks they're going to be rescheduling.
All
again.
things are sold out everywhere. It's just like it's March again. How about that?
What I don't understand is how can there be so many people in the restaurants and at the beach, but also so many people who want to hoard toilet paper and buy freezers?
Well,
Are they the same people? Are the same people secretly?
they don't need it. They just want it. What can we plant this late in the season?
Well, again, we live in Florida, so I think it's going to be in the 70s into October, probably, right?
Probably into November.
November?
Yeah.
So I think we can plant anything we want because we actually have another whole growing season still to come, right? I mean, we've got
I guess that's true.
August, September, October.
Oh, did I tell you?
And the rest of it's still the beginning of July, actually.
Yeah. Did I tell you I ordered Paul Robeson seeds?
No, you didn't tell me that. Well, we should plant some then.
Yeah, that's the idea. Speaking of which, just a reminder, if anyone can figure out who wrote that Paul Robeson seed description, that would be amazing. I've done some additional research this week. You know, I mentioned that it was posted on Dave's Garden and I didn't mention this in the last episode, but I did when we talked about it years ago, by a person with the username Susie. But it looks like she stopped being active on the forum in 2014. And this picture was posted in 2006. And in fact, she didn't write the description. It's just her picture with the description having been written presumably by the person at that farmer's market in Connecticut. So I don't know that it is ever going to be knowable, but I hope it is.
Well, this podcast goes out to dozens of listeners all around the world.
Dozens and dozens.
Maybe one of them.
Half dozens and half dozens. All right, so the catalog we thought we'd look at today is Annie's Heirloom Seeds, their 2020 catalog. Are you familiar with this catalog at all before we looked at it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, neither was I. I saw some online recommendations for it. I think that someone was complimenting their selection of herbs, so I checked them out. It is, I don't know how to say this any other way, but do you recall being a kid and there were children's magazines like Ranger Rick and Highlights magazine?
Yeah.
Which I think are great, maybe?
Hard to say. I'm going to confess something. I was subscribed to Highlights magazine as a child, and I always found it to be terrible and boring. But
well, you were a sophisticate as a child.
It didn't stop me from reading it because I was literally willing to read anything as a kid.
Sure.
But
I
never enjoyed it, which I hesitate to say because obviously the adults in my life bought me that subscription year after year as a Christmas gift.
Sure. I don't know if they're good or bad, but I think because I don't remember, to be perfectly honest, but I do remember what was appealing about them was the idea that just in the way that an adult would have a magazine subscription delivered to them once a month, I could await a magazine subscription as well. I think Highlights was for younger kids even, but Ranger Rick had like nature shit in it, which seemed cool.
So much the way you and your brother were assigned raccoons and dogs to be your...
Those are our assigned hobbies. Our collections, our assigned collections.
I, for some reason got highlights, and my sister, for some reason, got Ranger Rick.
Oh, wow. I feel like she really won out in that.
Probably.
I'm shocked that that is what was decided for you because you're older than your sister, and I feel like Ranger Rick is a slightly older in its demographic and better.
I think that I probably started getting the highlights subscription when I was really little, and then it just got rolled
to it.
over year after year. And then at some point, my sister became old enough to also get a magazine subscription, and they had to pick a different one.
I see.
Ranger Rick was the other one.
Fascinating.
I think that's probably what happened.
The reason I bring it up is because the design sensibility of this catalog really reminds me of those, which is to say it feels like it's for kids. I mean, it's not written like it's for kids, and clearly kids aren't a large purchaser of garden seeds. They have a lot of they don't have a lot of buying power themselves, but
I think what you're trying to say is that the layout of this catalog defies every principle of good graphic design.
Could be right.
It's a real visual hellscape.
I know what you mean by that, but tell me on.
I mean, so they've done this thing. If you turn to page 7,
yeah,
they've done this thing where they've got 3 pictures of 3 different green beans. They each overlap one another slightly, but then are offset to the left. So there's a waterfall that cascades down into the left with 3 completely different sized photos.
Right.
They don't align with the text columns. So it's laid out in 3-column text. On this one page, there are 4 headers for the bean types, which each are in a box. Then this cascading waterfall of 3 pictures of green beans that go to the left.
They look like they were dragged into Microsoft Word as pictures, but they didn't know how to manage them once they got there. Page 6 is actually even worse.
I'm almost sure that is what happened, and that this catalog is made in Microsoft Word. Then they do have one picture on this page that is in line with the column, except it is slightly off, which is
overhanging
maddening.
On the left. Yeah.
It overhangs on the left, but also I think might be slightly under on the right. Like they didn't justify it they didn't set it flush with the right side or something. It's truly.
To be fair, Microsoft Word makes that really hard.
I mean.
Which is why you shouldn't be using Microsoft Word for this.
But also, like, if what you're using is Microsoft Word, definitely give up on using a 3-column format unless you are definitely willing to crop or resize each of your images to be the same width as a column width. Don't do this.
Well, stay tuned for our next podcast where we criticize design choices.
I mean, page 6 has 3...
Yeah, page 6 is even worse.
3 overlapping, like a trefoil of pictures of green beans where none is within column boundaries. Each one cuts columns. One cuts across all 3 columns.
So we're saying this. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that isn't quite Comic Sans, but it really has the vibe of Comic Sans.
Yeah, their font choices are very...
I think actually on their website there is a bunch of Comic Sans. That all being said, I still sort of like this catalog. It doesn't bother me. It does seem directed towards children. There are a lot of pictures of kids enjoying things in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to savage their layout and graphic design right off the bat, because I'm sure...
It's a small-time operation. It's like one... Oh, that's the other thing.
I mean, Annie herself probably did this.
Yeah, so it's not Annie, but it's Julie. I'm not sure. Maybe Annie is a kid or a child of hers or maybe has some connection to her. But yeah, I gather from the website that Julie, who runs the operation, actually writes the whole catalog too. So, I mean, it's a Herculean effort to own and operate a seed company and also be completely responsible for producing the catalog and writing all the descriptions.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's a reason why there are professionals in doing this. But I just would respectfully suggest using some sort of just basic newsletter template if you don't care to create your own template or learn how to use some more specialized software or something.
That's what we're here for. Gotta be a little hard-hitting. I hope Julie is doing well. I watched some of her YouTube videos. She appears to have been bitten by a black widow and sustained some... I don't know if I should put this on the podcast.
Well, I happen to know some things about this.
Oh, that's true, because you know about spiders from your life and career. But I guess the most recent video she posted was, I guess, right before the COVID. She got bitten by a black widow and had a bunch of health problems associated with it, including a lot of like lung and breathing problems, as it turns out. So she's doing a complete self-quarantine because she's particularly vulnerable currently.
So my understanding is when you're bitten by a black widow, that it's absolutely nightmarish for several days, maybe about 4 days, something like that. And the person who supplied the spiders to my lab in the past owned a small company called Spider Farm. And he and his wife ran it as a small business, and they would sell you spiders, but they also milked spider venom for sale. So could, if you were a venom researcher or something, you could get black widow venom from them or brown recluse venom or something.
Sure.
And they appeared on Dirty Jobs once. And that's the only episode of Dirty Jobs I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, that guy sucks shit.
Yeah.
He's like a big bootstraps guy.
Oh, good.
He's like, that's his mission, is being a bootstraps guy at this point.
I see. Well, anyway, they interviewed the two proprietors of Spider Farm, and they'd both been bitten a number of times, and he asked them to describe what it was like. And the woman said, "It feels like your bones are breaking and twisting."
Oh my God. Well, this is like shortly after I met you, I came to pick you up from the in Massachusetts and drive back down the coast with you. And you had like buried in all of the luggage in the car.
No. You can't say this on the podcast.
Oh, okay. I'll cut that out.
Because I promised that I would.
Okay.
And as far as I did.
Okay, great. Story over. Anyway, best wishes to Julie. I hope you get better soon. Despite everything, find your catalog to be charming. Let's read some descriptions. Do you want to read some, because that's how I found it, and it appears to be the feature that they're well regarded for. Do you want to read from the herbs section?
Yeah, great.
Okay. Herbs are the spice of life. Grown not as a standalone vegetable, but for their wonderful flavor, culinary herbs add interest to almost any dish, from basil pestos, dill pickles, and herb potatoes, to cilantro salsas and sage stuffings. Herbs add flavor to everything we love to eat. But herbs are more than just flavor. Traditionally, they are used medicinally. Many of our favorite culinary herbs can also be used to enhance our health, aiding in digestion or helping us fight a cold. Moms through the centuries figured out how to prevent a tummy ache or make someone with the flu feel better through the right meal. Most herbs are also companion plants. Their wonderful aromas smell great to us, but many bad bugs hate them.
All right, let's start with the basils. Dark opal. Dark opal is one of the most popular varieties of purple basil. Purple basils have been around since the late 1800s. With deep purple leaves and lavender flowers, dark opal is a beautiful addition to your garden. It is a great herb to add to flavored oils or vinegars, and a wonderful contrast in color and companion to tomatoes in a hanging basket. It has the flavor of a traditional Genovese basil.
don't think I've ever seen purple basil. But I guess I should read the Genovese basil then, since they have comparable flavors. The standard Italian culinary basil. This is the basil that everyone loves to grow and eat. A great addition to a tomato sauce, as a base for pesto, or wherever you want that great basil flavor. It is also a great companion plant, deterring a lot of garden pests. I love planting it all over my garden. That's the kind of description you get when one person writes the whole catalog. I love planting it all over my garden. What pests are we deterring with our basil here?
I don't think any.
Oh.
Persian basil. A traditional basil from the Middle East, it has silvery green leaves with a spicy citrus flavor. Usually eaten raw with kebabs or in a salad. This is an excellent addition to your basil garden.
Let's move away from basil to a variety of herbs that I've tried to use to prevent the getting of coronavirus. Borage. Borage has beautiful blue flowers that are edible, tasting similar to a cucumber, and are excellent in a salad. The leaves can be used like spinach, eaten as a vegetable in soups or as a green sauce traditionally made in Germany. It is also an excellent companion plant for squash, because squash bugs won't cross it. I alternate zucchini with borage and spread it in marigolds to organically control squash bugs. It is also said to repel tomato hornworms. Reseeds vigorously. Apparently borage oil is good for respiratory distress.
Okay. Here's one for Lucy. Catnip. A member of the mint family, catnip is grown for tea, but is also loved by cats and honeybees. It is a larger plant, growing up to 4 feet tall. It can be used as a companion plant and is thought to repel many harmful insects, including flea beetles and squash bugs. Like all mints, it can become invasive. We had some growing in the hayfield hundreds of feet away from the original planting.
I remember when I met you and you had fairly substantial garden in the back of the house.
We don't need to say all the streets we've lived
I'll
on.
just bleep it. You had just a ton of mint growing everywhere throughout the strawberries. I thought you were maybe intentionally grown a ton of mint, but did you grow a little mint and it spread everywhere?
Well, I planted 4 different kinds of mint, and then it spread everywhere.
Okay. I remember one was chocolatey.
Yes.
I really
that
marveled
chocolate
at
mint.
that.
It's a shame that I don't have any mint now. But having mint in a fruit salad, like a strawberry and chocolate mint
Yeah,
fruit
it's
salad,
amazing.
it's great. Why aren't we doing that now?
Of all the things that could become invasive, mint is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to, I don't know, mow the mint with the lawnmower or something, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
to
I
me.
did have that experience of mowing in the back of that property and getting the aroma of mint. I also had the experience of mowing over poison ivy and getting it all over my body.
Yeah, I also had that experience with you. I remember.
It was so nice to have shared that.
That was when I learned that I am sensitive to poison ivy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you pulverize it and then spread the
then aerate
juices
it,
everywhere.
Let me read fenugreek. In cultivation since the Bronze Age, fenugreek is used as a spice, tea, vegetable, and dye. The seeds have a mild maple syrup aroma and flavor. The leaves are called methi and are a wonderful herb to flavor potatoes and chicken. It grows best in well-drained soil and needs little fertilizer. It really does smell like maple syrup. I've always marveled at that.
Really? That might be one of those genetic things.
Have you not had that experience?
I have not had that experience. But smell is one of those really variable genetic traits where people smell lots of things differently.
I forget, do we both have the asparagus pea thing?
Yeah, we can both smell asparagus pea. I don't smell what's good about lily of the valley, which is definitely a genetic thing.
We both like cilantro.
That's
different though,
but
yeah.
Similar, sure. Wormwood. Before the use of hops, wormwood was used as the bittering agent in beers. Its leaves have been used in absinthe, vermouth, and other liqueurs for its bittering qualities. It's traditionally used to treat digestive ailments and intestinal worms. Prefers infertile, well-drained soil. Very difficult to start from seed.
I've noticed that this is one of the catalogs that tells you how many seeds. Like we discussed at one point, some catalogs will say, we're sending you an ounce or whatever unit. And some catalogs will say, we're sending you X amount of seeds. And this is one that's sending you X amount of seeds. And the amount for this one is 200, which seems to be on the upper end of what they send. Do you think that's because it's hard to grow from seed?
Might be. The seeds also might just be very small.
I see.
I don't actually know. I don't know what a size a wormwood seed is.
I'm going to read marshmallow. Dating back to the times of the ancient Greeks and Egyptians, the root has traditionally been used to soothe irritated skin of the throat, eyes, and lungs. It has hollyhock-like leaves and beautiful purple flowers. I was going to tell you that someone at work, I forgot what we were discussing. Maybe it was like remedies for a cold or something. And marshmallow root came up. And they said in that moment, they realized that marshmallows grew on plants.
Well, I'm stunned.
I mean, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's got a Big Rock Candy Mountain quality.
Willy Wonka-like.
Bee balm. Also known as monarda or bergamot. Bee balm is a wonderful and aromatic flower that attracts bees, butterflies, and birds. It has been traditionally used as a topical antiseptic or mouthwash. It is frequently used in teas and tastes slightly bitter, with a mixture of the flavor of spearmint, peppermint, and oregano.
The fact that this is listed under bee balm and not bergamot is shocking to me.
You know, when people, at least in this country, when people grow it as an ornamental plant or as an herb, they usually do call it bee balm.
Really? I've never even heard that word or that label before. And I'm obviously familiar with bergamot and tea and scent, and I've never heard bee balm.
Do you remember the day we took a plant over to house as a gift?
Yes.
That was a bee balm plant.
Oh, okay. Stevia. This super sweet herb is a great choice for a natural sweetener. Just grow and dry the leaves and use the powdered leaves to sweeten almost anything. My daughter loves stevia sweetened tea, yogurt, and even whipped cream! ! Is that still the rage for people? It's not a diet sweetener though.
Well, it is. Yeah, it's non-caloric.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's why people like it.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Let's just be honest. All sweeteners, all non-caloric sweeteners are gross. And you know what? That could be a genetic thing too.
Well, I prefer straight saccharin.
Maybe that is a genetic thing because they all taste very bad to me, including stevia.
Well, I grew up drinking diet soda, so I have a different background and experience.
I've always thought stevia had a really bad off taste, but maybe the people who like it actually have a different experience of the flavor.
I was really big in it. I loved aspartame. That's a good one. The blue packet.
Okay, well, that's weird. I don't know what's going on with you.
Love that blue packet of chemical powder. Is stevia good? Have we eaten it? Do we have it?
I just said over and over again that I think it's bad.
Oh, sorry. I was too busy thinking about aspartame.
No, I think I've always felt like people who say they like stevia are definitely lying to themselves.
Yeah.
But maybe they actually have a completely different experience of it than I do. Summer savory. The leaves are used either fresh or dried to flavor meat and egg dishes. It also is a great herb to grow as a companion plant to repel garden bugs.
Stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is frequently found growing wild in forest edges. The young shoots can be cooked and eaten, and the dried leaves are very nutritious. I use nettle in teas for soothing cold symptoms. Care must be taken in harvesting because the leaves sting the skin and cause itching. When I was a kid, my friend Jesse, whenever he would get a cold as a kid, would gather stinging nettle and use that. And
To make a soup?
I don't know how he applied it. I feel like he applied it, no? Or he drank it as a tea, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, cooking it as a vegetable into a soup or maybe infusing it into a tea seem like those would be the things.
Yeah. I was a big believer in pseudoephedrine.
Well, that works.
It definitely works. But I always thought it was cool that he used stinging nettle.
Yeah.
He was cool.
Yeah, he sounds like it.
Yeah. I mean, he's a professor of forestry now. Maybe he would have something to say on this podcast.
Maybe you should invite him on the podcast.
Well, we haven't spoken in years, and
Maybe
it's a
you should
source
talk
of
to
great
him.
pain to me.
He texted you this week and you didn't reply. Why don't you reply to the people who wished you a happy birthday?
No, I'm cutting that.
Valerian, a hardy perennial that blooms in midsummer with sweetly scented flowers. Its flower extracts were used as perfume in the 16th century. It is native to Europe and parts of Asia. The root is prepared to make the herbal supplement that is used as a sedative.
I love herbs and drugs that make a person drowsy, but valerian is the only thing I've ever tried that instead of making me drowsy, it kept me up all night.
Yeah, valerian works on me. It works really well on me.
Well, I gotta find different drugs, I guess. So inspired by having used TMZ as a source of seed and garden information in the previous episode for our Murder Hornet update, we thought we might introduce, when relevant, celebrity garden seed gossip segment.
Oh yeah, celebrity gossip is a great segment to add to this seed catalog podcast.
Yeah. So what I thought we'd bring up is something that probably a lot of folks have seen, but it's a quarantine garden story in a sense, in that Martha Stewart went into full quarantine on her massive property, but is isolating in a pod unit specifically with her gardener.
Well, I think several members of her household staff.
Who are servants to her.
Yeah, I mean, she has a bunch of animals and many acres of land, so she needs some employees to take care of all of that stuff.
So her gardener, Ryan McAllister, left his own life to quarantine with Martha Stewart as a full-time can't leave servant to her.
So I actually knew about this from another podcast that is very different from this one called Baby Geniuses.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Which has a recurring segment about one of Martha Stewart's horses and news on that particular horse. Okay. But it often turns into other Martha Stewart news. Mm-hmm. And so from that, I had learned some information that I had vaguely recalled about Martha Stewart being quarantined with several members of her household staff. And I just did a quick Google search to refresh my memory about that. And here's a quote from the Wall Street Journal. Among the wealthy homeowners quarantining with their staff is media mogul Martha Stewart, who said she is sheltering with her driver, housekeeper, and gardener at her estate in the Bedford, New York area. We have 3 detainees, I call them.
Jesus Christ.
Said Ms. Stewart during a video chat on Seth Meyers' talk show.
Well, she would know, having been a detainee at one point herself.
We make a nice dinner every night. We have a cocktail. We play cards after dinner. Ms. Stewart noted that the staff don't live in the main house, but rather have beds elsewhere on the property.
Oh, servants' quarters.
They're not sick of it yet, but when I see the edges fraying, I'll give them the day off, she said.
Oh, Jesus.
A spokesman for Ms. Stewart declined to comment. So, I mean, wow, what a nightmare.
Sounds like one. I mean, she posts on Instagram pictures of them all drinking comically oversized margaritas together, but the long and short is that she has captured a number of adult humans that now can't leave her enormous property, and
Surely, I'm also confused because her driver, like a person who drives her in her car, but you can't go anywhere. So why would you have your driver quarantine with you? She also owns
is he hot?
She owns like a dozen horses, and I'm sure that I've heard something about her having her groom of her stable around, because there's no way she could do all of that horse work herself. So maybe the driver is actually her horse guy?
Could be. I mean, I assume she's doing none of the work herself beyond the images she posts on social media.
I guess she could have people come and do her barn work without having to interact with them.
That's
so
possible,
maybe
yeah.
they don't have to be quarantined with her.
I mean, let's not bury the lead, though. Ryan McAllister, her gardener, is hot. And certainly the implication in all the articles that I've seen is that she is keeping him as a sex guy.
Are they all hot or just him?
I think maybe they are. Let's see.
So did she mention that they sleep elsewhere in order to... Was that a protesting too much situation? Do they, in fact, all sleep not only in the same house, but in the same bed?
What if... Oh, wow. That's an interesting idea that maybe all of her servants sleep in one giant bed together.
I mean, if anyone would have some sort of weird Victorian pony play situation going on, surely it would be Martha Stewart. Or maybe they stay in the stables. Maybe she has stalls for them and she puts them in there with a nice bucket of oats.
All right, so I'm looking at her quote-unquote detainees. Her driver, Carlos, her housekeeper, Elvira, and then, of course, Ryan. They're all good-looking, but I would say only Ryan is hot.
Can anyone explain why she needs a driver in quarantine? Where is she driving?
Well, note that in this image, they're all drinking margaritas that are enormous, but she points out that her driver is only drinking a baby tiny one.
Because he's going to drive
He's going to be driving,
somewhere?
I guess. Yeah.
Where?
Who can say?
Is it just like a recreational country drive?
A drive about town, maybe.
Well, I'm very confused. Maybe we should follow Martha Stewart on Instagram.
I mean, she's a treat. I probably like her more than any other celebrity that's done high financial crimes.
She's also famous for, well,
being
again,
horny.
Yeah, for being coyly but openly sexual, I think, on her Instagram.
Definitely.
But also she's famous for deleting Instagrams. Like, I think a lot of celebrities, they just have a social media manager, so they don't need to delete things very often. But I think she might post some of her own things because often they'll be up for 12 minutes and then get deleted for being too horny
She
or
appears to
something.
be drunk all the time, by all accounts. All right, well, I guess we're done. We wanted to invite any listeners, if they felt like they had a great catalog that we should see, to suggest it to us, and we'll do it. We have a lot in the tank. There's no lack of seed catalogs, especially if we're going to do some ones from some vintage seed catalogs. But if there's any particular one that someone thinks we should talk about, I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And of course, if anyone can figure out who wrote that Paul Robeson seed description, that would change our lives.
And man, if we could find that person A, we should have them on the podcast. And B, we should find out what other
things
seeds
they've written.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
have they written descriptions of
What if there's
other
a whole
plants?
catalog of that shit?
Maybe the person from that Connecticut farmer's market.
Yeah. That's the dream. All right. Well, we're at CD Business on Twitter. We're CD Business Pod on Instagram. You can email us at cdbusinesspod@gmail.com. If you are inclined, you can rate us poorly and or review us poorly on iTunes. And eat your vegetables.
We're all just trying to do the best we can.
You speak for yourself.
It's CD business. It's CD business. Boring talk about seeds, CD talk between pores. Mind-numbing chatter about ovules and spores. We'll take a ditch and we'll moan and split the difference. It's CD business. It's CD